Okay, so welcome to the Common Humanity Podcast, where we're here to have real human conversations. We get a kind of special thing today because I am actually in person with my guest. We're on a little vacaciones. And she agreed to talk to me on camera specifically.
I guess.
So everybody, this is Ashley.
Hi.
And we are sorority sisters and friends for a relatively long time because at this point,
16
a
years.
third or more of our years of our lives, whatever. So as per usual, I do my one and only question, which is, Ashley, who are you?
Goodness. I am many things, which I'm sure is probably what everybody says. I guess I like to refer to myself right now as a phoenix. I'm a phoenix. I've been reborn. I'm not sure who I am yet because I'm kind of starting over. So the basics are there and the same. The details are different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would call it a midlife crisis, if you will. But I don't know that. I guess I've had a little bit of crises, but yeah. I'm a reader. I'm an adventurer.
Very nice. We'll start with this. What's your favorite adventure you've ever been on?
Oh no. Rough.
I'm also doing her hair for the day, so
she braids better than me. I guess one of my favorite ventures, because let's be honest, I've been on a lot and picking a favorite hurts. I would say one of my top adventures was the summer I spent in Poland.
And what about that adventure was special to you?
It was a very solo adventure. I don't know if at that point in time I'd done a lot of solo adventuring.
Okay.
It was kind of my kickoff to the love of like traveling kind of by myself. I flew there all by myself. I stopped in Iceland for 3 days by myself. I had a not attentive boyfriend that I went to stay with, who was a lot different than who I had agreed to go to Poland for.
Interesting.
And so I spent a lot of alone time, but I had a transportation pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get anywhere if I gave myself enough time. There was no distance within Krakow too far that I couldn't go on public transportation. So I did a lot of internet sleuthing, a lot of what's down here, and found some really cool places.
Nice.
Yeah. And some cool people.
That's always fun. So we're in Boston this weekend. And so we are basically pros of the public transportation system out here. Because we have gotten home every night.
Pros.
Eventually. We are from places that don't have public transportation systems like this. So
we are not going to be a special on a different podcast called My Favorite Murders.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to hear more about, so you say you went to Poland to see a boyfriend who was not who you thought he was, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about that and what that experience was like and like how you came to that conclusion.
So we met in college. Well, he just graduated, so he was in his year out of college, and I was taking a break from college and nannying at that point in time. And when we started dating, we were the same in a lot of ways. Like, we did the same like activities. We were able to hang out with each other's friends and it wasn't awkward. Like, we were relatively similar enough. Like, obviously he's 100% Polish. But he speaks great English, and we were in America. So like, yeah, we played drinking games, we got to eat, we played card games a lot, played pool, went on hikes. Like, we did a lot of things together. I had to watch him play tennis, but I figured that out. He was here on a tennis scholarship. That's
Gotcha.
the reason why he moved to Montana, out of all places, is they offered him a full ride. And then he graduated and he had a 1-year visa. And when the visa expired, he wasn't able to get it renewed. And so he had to go back to Poland. And at that point, we'd been dating just shy, like, not quite a year. And both of us were like, well, is it long enough for us to, sorry, camera, long enough for us to keep going, or are we gonna be done? Because long distance permanently wasn't really a choice. We hadn't been dating long enough to get married.
Yeah.
And so we decided to make a plan. He left in January. We made a plan for me to go there for the summer, starting after a semester got over in May, until the end of the summer, where I would come back and then switch colleges because I had to. And so that's what I did. We made it. We made it to May. Go long distance team. I put all my crap from my apartment in Bozeman into a storage unit, and I flew to Poland. Got there. He picked me up from an airport that was a couple hours away from where he actually lived, and I like flew for 32 hours to get there, and I was a little sun torn and tired from Iceland, and like walked into the train station, and just looking at him, he was different. Just himself. He made a lot of changes when he moved to Poland, health wise.
Okay. So
and
less collegiate tennis player, more dad bod. Is that
no, opposite?
Opposite. I was like,
He had,
so like bodybuilder. It was like, okay.
yeah, he had the build of a man who played tennis, sure, but also drank a lot of beer when he was in Montana, because that's
Montana.
Yeah, that's tracks. And so then he moved back to Poland, kept playing tennis, exercised on top of playing tennis, stopped eating as much, and basically stopped drinking. Which, good for him, man. He was healthy, but it wasn't that he was a bodybuilder. It's that he lost all of his body fat. Yeah. And he's tall, like 6'5" tall. And so he was a very slender human when I was like, oh, yeah, I think that face is the same. He was definitely trimmed down. And so, like, good for him, except I guess I had a little bit too. I started running for some reason.
That sounds awesome.
I know, it was pretty rough. But I wanted to be able to go to Poland and like feel good about myself at least a little bit. So flew to Poland. He was there. We took a 2-week vacation. Well, he took a 2-week vacation right when I got there. And we went to what's called the Land of Lakes, Missouri, and spent like 2 weeks just being with each other, which was great. And then like real world started. And he decided that he wanted to be at work for over like basically 10 to 12 hours a day. And then he also wanted to either work out or play tennis 3 to 4 hours a day. Guess how many hours that is?
Roughly 15.
Guess how many hours of sleep he wanted?
9.
8.
Okay.
So 15 plus 8 is 23.
Math major.
I got 1 whole hour.
Yeah.
Like he would come home from either tennis or the gym, and it's like dinner. And then after dinner, clean up, shower, blah, 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 go to bed. And that was it. And guess who had to cook dinner? Me.
And was that like an expectation that he had?
It like didn't start that way. And then it's slowly like it kind of morphed because like what else am I doing? And he was a definitely meat starch kind of person, which is nothing wrong with that, but like chicken and rice only he could have eaten it every day. Probably did.
I eat it every day.
And that's fine. I like little variety in my life, plus gluten-free.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of home things and spent a lot of time adventuring. So he would leave in the morning. I would plan my day, and then I would go on said adventure. So a lot of times the open air markets, they were like an everyday thing. Like you didn't go grocery shopping like you do here. You stop by the market and grab what you want for the night and maybe tomorrow breakfast.
Yeah.
And that was about it. So usually every day I would end up swinging by one of the markets and getting whatever was needed for dinner, and then, doing whatever. So I found a lot of really cool places, basically being left to my own devices every day. Met some cool people. Started doing couchsurfing.com so I could meet some English speaking people, because people there were really nice. No one was angry or anything like that, but I didn't understand anything. And I was working on my Polish, but Polish is hard. So yeah, I met some friends on couchsurfing. It was more than just, finding a place to stay. It was like, hey, we're going to be in Poland for the whole day. Anybody want to meet at this town square and walk around? Maybe you have some cool things to show us. And I was like, I do. I have so many cool things. And so I would meet these people in the square. We'd introduce ourselves, and then we walk around. I'm still alive. Cool.
Yeah.
Like,
You made it.
I made it. And that's kind of what I did for most of the time that I was there. It took me about a month to figure one out. So I was very lonely the first month. But once I started figuring that stuff out, it got better because I had interaction.
Yeah. So the end of that relationship, did it end before you left Poland? Did it end after you got back from Poland? Did it end?
Yes.
Okay. So you were like, hey, this was fun, but bye.
No, we broke up like 2 times during my trip, which was like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah.
And both of them were ones that we talked through as I was trying to figure out the fuck that means for me, and yeah, there was a lot of issues as far as me complaining about the time we had together, him being frustrated because that's what he does now, him falling back into some traditional Polish thinking that I wasn't a fan of, as far as gender roles in the relationship, and we definitely fought about that a little bit. Like, why would you bring me to Poland when you already knew who I was? Like, you already knew these things. Like, it wasn't a secret. I did not know these things about you. Those were secrets. And so that was issue. Intimacy was an issue. I was like, is it because you got thinner and I did not? Like, I don't know why that fell down. So yeah, there was, and then like I didn't know anybody, and he would take me places with his friends, and like
Probably all speak Polish.
They all speak Polish. 1 or 2 of them would speak English and like help me out a little. One of them was his friend here in the United States too, so I knew one of his friends, David, and I appreciated David. but also his girlfriend was fluent in Polish, not English. And so when we went and hung out with them, that it was like one of us was going to get left out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wish I knew Polish. I learned quite a bit. Don't remember any of it now, but I could order food at the grocery store
Yeah.
and count money, which was really the most two highlighted things. But nope, we broke up and got back together quite a few times. And then on the last day I was there, I was packing and cleaning and putting things in places where I know he would find them, because I put them in the places that they are practically supposed to go over the course of the couple. I was there for 3 months. And so I started undoing the things that I did to make it easier for him to be without me in the house 24/7 all the time. And as I'm like moving things around, cleaning things up, blah, 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 I was like moving his tennis bag and cigarettes fell out. I have a rule. And that rule is I don't date smokers. He knew that when he dated me and he quit, supposedly. And
In that situation.
and that's like the rule. And I lay it out very early. Like, if I know you smoke cigarettes and we seem like we're going to be interested in each other, I flat out say, I would require this from you. Like, this is a deal breaker for me. If you smoke cigarettes or chew, because if those are the things that you need to do them. Like, I'm not here to tell you to quit. I'm telling you that if you want to date me, I don't date smokers. Well, why would, like, I would have to quit? Yes, you would. Well, that seems harsh. Then don't date me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
not
choice.
requiring you to date me. I'm not saying you have to quit cigarettes. I'm saying if you would like to build something with me, I don't date smokers. And so he chose that path and he quit. And for the 9 months that we were together before we went to Poland, he did not smoke. And then he hit it hella well for the summer that I was there, until that final day when I found them. And just something goes nuclear in my brain. Not only, and it wasn't even necessarily about the cigarettes. It was about the long-term lie,
Yeah,
coupled with the cigarettes. And so he got home. That was fun. It didn't go very smoothly. He didn't want me to break up with him. I didn't want that to be the last thing that happened before I got on the plane. So I was like, I don't even, like, it wasn't solved, but it was like, we're not breaking up right now. I'm going to take some space. I'm going to fly back to Montana and we can relook at this after I have an ocean of distance between us. And I don't know, I landed like solidly back in the United States, feet on the ground, and I was like, nope, that's done. And so, yeah, we broke up.
how did you feel? So after that relationship, because earlier you said that you feel like a phoenix. So did you have that same kind of feeling after that relationship in some sense?
No, I was in a very different headspace. I had to move to Dillon and start class 2 days after I landed back in the United States with no place to live, carved out or anything like that. I have a car and I have the luggage I flew to Poland with, and I have a storage unit with a key that I can't move anything because I don't have anywhere to move them to. So I just drove to Dillon, slept in my car. 2 days, one of the people who's like an advisor found out and got me a hotel room the 3rd day, unbeknownst to me. And she was like, it's already paid for. Like, you have to take it. And I was like, okay, a shower would be nice. And maybe a real bed. And then after that, I had an apartment from somebody else who was really nice and like, I have an apartment. It's not remodeled, but you can live in it until we remodel a different one, and then you can switch out, which is exactly what I did. Love them.
Nice.
And so I don't know that it was like I didn't feel like a phoenix. I just felt stress. I had survival more, like basic, like I need a roof over my head. I need to find my student work study jobs. I need to find a real job on top of that. I need to pay attention to my classes and all that stuff. So I had a lot on my mind besides my personal life.
Yeah.
So I just worked on a lot of that for a bit.
So we don't have to go into detail, but I know that the last year of your life has been, we'll go with turbulent. So there was a lot of survival there as well. So what do you think is the difference between the surviving and coming into who you are now versus the surviving to be who you were then?
I think there's just different, like that survival wasn't coupled with a lot of emotional, like I had checked out of that relationship and was just grasping at straws at that point. So I'd pretty much already done like the loss of this relationship because I just knew, especially towards the end, that this wasn't going to be able to carry on a whole lot longer. And at that point was just kind of being a chicken because I didn't want to end it in a foreign country. That wasn't my country. And so that was kind of, and I'd already knew I was going to Dylan, already can kind of, the change was expected and I just executed it shittily.
Okay.
Like I was the one who didn't like secure housing. I was the one who decided to go to Poland and not buy a ticket on the way home. That was, I bought the cheapest one, not the smartest one, you know? And so I did that to myself. Whereas the last year of my life was more done, not necessarily like to me, but done in a way that I didn't have any control over what was being done. And so I think the lack of control, and it was definitely more mental health driven this time than that time.
So it was more of an internal change this time around.
Yes. Okay. External factors exist, but internal change is the biggest.
What do you think has been the most beneficial internal change that you've gone through?
I think like mental health, like we've been working on the right coping mechanisms for the mental health status that I'm at. And before, like it's not the first time, but last time was when I had made the decision to take a break from college and we had found some medicine. Like I got put on medication and then intense therapy, but it was very like light. It wasn't too deep. It wasn't too serious. It wasn't, let's investigate this further. I had a really shitty therapist twice. And so like my ability to dive into making better mental health choices was limited to finding a therapist that actually worked for me and with me and whatnot. And this time it's been like, let's actually look at what medications would be best for you. If this part isn't working, let's try things, let's up doses, let's pair things together differently. This is a symptom. I'm not just going to blanket use this medication to try and cover all of them. It's like this medication helps with this piece, and this medication helps with this piece. Did this one work? No. Okay, so then we're not going to keep using that one. Like it just kind of, it's like plus therapy. And then the difference in therapy, like before it's just sort of like light talk therapy where you just talk about your feelings, and they until Courtney was a ball buster. It took me like a year to find a therapist that wasn't just like she was like, and who did that? She'd be like, do you like reflect on that? Let's talk about the reflection. Like she would make me truly analyze things, but it took me a while to find her. And then I moved to Dillon. And so I was fleeting.
Yeah.
And this time it's been, basically a year, like looking at this, a year and some change that I've been like kind of coping in almost a year since we've been like working on my med levels.
Mhm.
And so I feel like at this point I have more support in dealing and deeper support in dealing. More foundation, I guess.
Nice.
To build new upon. Whereas I was just like laying floorboards down for the past before.
Like I'm gonna take this plywood and like we'll just put that down and cover
I can stand on that maybe.
Yeah. Is there any changes that you have gone through that you feel are detrimental?
I have tendencies, which I've always had, but haven't been quite as aware of them as I am now. So like I have pretty intense bipolar diagnosis. I'll go ahead and throw that out to the wind. I make decisions when I'm manic, and I make decisions when I'm depressed, and they don't go well sometimes. And so I would say there's been some detrimental decisions and related to like making irresponsible financial choices is usually my thing. Weird. We're in Boston. And so that I think is a little detrimental. The fact that I can't seem to get that shit together in a way that promotes long-term stability in my life, because I just have so much instability in my life that I would rather have my experiences now than save for what I don't know will be later.
That's fair. I mean, there's the positive of that is you can live in the moment. Which the downfall of that, but which is like you might not have a retirement to fall back on. But you're a millennial, so none of us will.
I actually like have in some ways taken care of that. Like I do have, I think at this point I have 4 retirement accounts. At some point I will see if I can blend them bitches into one, but I stayed teaching long enough to have a pension. Montana still has a pension.
Nice.
So I get a pension. I'm technically retired under my teachers union. So I will forever get benefits from that. That retirement account, and then I have a second one from teaching. Both of those are still active. My bartending job gives me an account that's still active, and then my new job gives me an IRA. So I actually have some. It's not great, but it does exist.
What I've learned from this is if you're a teacher, go to Montana.
Pension, we still have that. So, and the largest public what's the word?
Teachers union?
It's not just a teachers union, it's public employees. So I think there's like 40 something thousand of us in the union across Montana. Nurses, highway patrol, teachers, the archives, general government, public government officials. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I get all those benefits, including a death benefit. So if someone kills me or I accidentally die,
you can be buried.
Good job, Dad. You're getting some money. Pay off my student loans, please.
I mean, at that point, they're not your problem anymore.
It's true. At this point, I'm getting close. We're getting higher on the list. More people get forgiven. So we're gonna hope we reach that top.
Yeah. Because mine is, if I die, my kids have to pay for that shit. Unfortunately for them. What is, do you have like next year to 2 years? Do you have a a plan or any amount of plan for what that is going to look like. And it could be big picture, could be adventures you plan on, anything.
Well, I'm going on a cruise in February.
And what is that cruise?
Emo's Not Dead cruise. I want to hang out with my high school and early college favorite bands on a boat where they can't leave me. They can't escape. But that, and like I signed a lease on a new apartment, so I split with my ex of 6 years during all of the shit that I went through the last year. He was not as supportive. There was like a couple things wrong, but at this point life's too short to stay with someone who doesn't serve you, and I felt like the relationship was very uneven. And despite conversations about it, it never evened out. I'm like, and it doesn't have to be 50-50, and I told him that I just need it to be one person needs to help the other person out when they're not 50.
Yeah.
And I feel like our relationship was 40-60, pretty much standard practice, if not a little bit more on my side. I was always 60. And I'm like, well, right now I feel like trash. So I'm about 10 and you're still sitting at 40, which means we're only 50% and I'm struggling. So I'm like, I would rather deal with my own 10% all by myself than have to deal with the fact that 60% of this isn't getting taken care of.
It's fair.
So we had a house together. Don't do that, by the way. One of you signed the house. And then, yeah, so we're splitting the house. We signed that paperwork last week. I signed the lease to my new place. And so when I get back, I will be packing, moving. And then I feel like I can truly start over, because that was kind of the last tether to all of the shit that's happened over the last year. And then I can kind of start anew, rise out of the ashes and be a new phase, new job, new boyfriend, new apartment, no goals really, except for grad school. I'm in grad school. Didn't give that up. I took a little break, but that kicks back off September 30th. So
nice.
Grad school, try to finish that.
What's the degree you're going for in grad school?
Mathematics and education.
Oh yeah, because you were telling me yesterday you want to teach college.
I want to teach college. High school, I mean, I could go back to secondary, but at this point I would like the education system to collapse on itself and start over. Or something like that, major education reform, because you can keep putting patches over the hole, but
it's eventually going to sink.
Yep.
That's fair. Okay. And as we close out, the last question I have for you is there anything, like if the world needs to hear one thing, what does the world need to know?
That there's lots of little baby guys, but they're kind of stereotypical. In my philosophy, I guess, one of the things that is true to my core is that life is short and experience is over money. Like, I would rather spend $2,000 to go on a cruise than $2,000 in my bank account for a rainy day. Like, obviously rainy day money needs to happen, because if the boiler on your house breaks or you have a cat emergency, but you can save for that and have that nest egg, but also save enough to go do these things. Like, you don't need a bank account with $50,000 in it. Put $30,000 in it and go see the world. Go do that thing you want to do. Like,
take the class.
Whether you're building a new skill or nurturing a hobby or seeing people you love or getting to experience things that you've always wanted that are on your bucket list. Like, cross the shit off your bucket list now. Don't wait till you retire to cross shit off your bucket list. You don't need to cross all of it off right now, but just every once in a while, throw yourself a bucket list item to
Yeah.
cross off. Just take them off. 1 or 2 a year. Just
I like that. I agree. When I left the Y, that was the first thing I did. I was like, I always wanted to go rock climbing. I went rock climbing. I always wanted to go skydiving. I went skydiving. I was like, you know what I couldn't do when I was working 80 hours a week? All of the things I wanted to do. So I went and did them.
Life is too short. Not, I mean, obviously, you know, money makes the world go round because
Yeah.
capitalism blows, but
I'm going to quote you on that.
but do some things. Live your life.
Well, Ashley, thank you for joining me on the Common Humanity podcast, where we're here to
Thanks
have
for having me.
real human conversations. See you guys next time.
Like, cross the shit off your bucket list now. Don't wait till you retire to cross shit off your bucket list. You don't need to cross all of it off right now, but just every once in a while, throw yourself a bucket list item to cross off. Just take them off. 1 or 2 a year. Just
I like that. I agree.